And we're live. Hi, guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I'm really excited to be joined by Venu and Cash, and we're going to be going through the very exciting, day 5 was a lot more exciting, let's say, than day 4, and a very intriguing test match, let's put it that way, between England and India. England, to be honest, looked pretty dominant throughout most of it, where a lot of people, I don't think, gave them a chance, really, for this series anyway. And some people will say, I think Gautam Gambhir said that England wouldn't win a single test match, which is fair enough considering how well India had played in Australia. They've got a strong team now, Kohli back as captain, but unfortunately it wasn't to be, and they kind of fell, fell from grace a little bit, didn't they? From being at the top of the mountain, and there's a lot of things to talk about in terms of India. But for England, a 6th straight away win, which is really impressive, and they took their form from Sri Lanka into this, and beating India by 227 runs. First of all, guys, how are you both? Cash, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm well. How are you, Fazan?
I'm good, thank you. Venu, you good as well?
Yeah, I'm good. I would have. It's funny. Work gave us a day off today, and all the students a day off. It was a well-being day, and I was hoping that day 5 would last a bit longer. And it's like it ended at 8 o'clock. Like when my lesson started, just thinking, just my luck. But I'll take England win. So I'm good.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I was expecting it to go longer. And I was on to Cash earlier, and we were like, watching, and then you wake up before work, and you're like, "What? It's over already?" And I was expecting to do a live stream. I think around 11:30 maybe, if I had time to watch it, but it wasn't to be. A really good performance. What's your initial reaction, I guess, to the win, Cash? What do you think?
I think you've got to look at the England team and the number of match winners they've got. So obviously, in this innings, Anderson really came good. He did this wonder over, which really turned the tide of the game. And then you even have Stokes, who takes Kohli out when Kohli is, looking really good, looking like maybe he can bat for at least a long time, playing the spin really well, and Stokes takes him out. So this is the thing about this England team. They've got match winners in all departments, from people who maybe won't show up in the first innings too much, but then will do something very special in the second innings.
That's well put. I think I agree with you. I think I'm going to put this picture up later as well, but this, I think, sums up probably India's feelings at the moment, doesn't it? Virat Kohli with his arms on his hips, and he got a good wall, to be fair. As in, it's tough to play because it kept low, and it cleaned him up. And as you can see here, just did him all ends up, to be honest with you. And I think for him, a 72 is good. I think the only plus I can really take, probably from one of the only positives for India, is probably that Kohli got some runs, and he looked in pretty good nick, as you said, Cash. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to go big, but sometimes that happens. It was a bit up and down this track. I think you could tell it was a bit, a bit. I guess the bounce was very uneven, let's put it that way. And similar to, actually, we've seen it in the Pakistan South Africa series, and also now in this England-India one, but the subcontinental pitches, as the days go on, you see that more and more. So there are a few that stayed pretty low. Some of the Indian batsmen played it quite well. But yeah, Kohli, unfortunately, just got one from Stokes, and that happens. But he wasn't really backed up at all by the rest of them, apart from Shubman Gill, who did quite well. Vinny, what's your initial reaction to the England win?
England bossed it. Let's just, from day one, from the first minute they bossed it. I think the partnership between Burns and Sibley for the first innings really set them up, and I think that was really important to settle the nerves. And yeah, I mean, another Joe Root masterclass. I run out of words to describe Joe Root's performance so far for the Sri Lanka test and this test. They bossed it from day one, and England have now won 6 consecutive wins in Asia. Okay, so and Australia did it 7. That's the record, and that was a great Australian team. 2002 to 2004 they did that, but that shows 6 tests, 6 wins, and among visiting captains in Asia, only Graham Smith 8 wins in 21 tests, and Clive Lloyd 17 tests. So these are 2 great captains. Have one more test as skipper in Asia. So that really I think this Test match has I think it's really confirmed Joe Root as a great England captain. Like,
Okay, that's interesting.
Like, I think when Joe Root first was appointed captain, I think we would all say we were a bit unsure because he's a bit of a joker in the team. But I think he's matured. I think obviously fatherhood has matured him as well. And yeah, I just think he bossed his captaincy, bossed the batting, and he led from the front. That's what you want from a captain. And
that's very well put, Venu, actually. And you've gone very deep, I think, into his personality there about fatherhood. And I think it's well put, though. I think he has matured, right? Because there were a few incidents before where he was a little bit maybe immature, but I think he's become more responsible. Maybe the captaincy is thrust that upon him. Thank you, Cryptic RH17, for joining. It's actually only a 4-match series, so 3-2 is impossible. So what do you think? I actually said 2-2. I think, Venu, you said 3-1 India, I think, originally. Cash, I don't remember. What was your prediction?
I don't think I had one. I think my prediction would be 2-1 India.
Okay.
That was my opinion.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Cryptic, let me know what your revised prediction is. Unfortunately, not 5 test matches. I think the only series that is 5 now at the moment is the Ashes. And I don't want to go into my thoughts on whether every series should be or shouldn't be. But that's a topic for another day. But yeah, I think you're right, Venu. 100% Root was fantastic. I mean, led from the front with... Look, when your batting's doing well, right? I think it really... It helps, doesn't it? It helps because it puts less pressure on you as a captain.
Yeah.
And then actually you're able to back it up. And I think, Alistair Cook struggled the most when he was struggling for runs, didn't he? And in terms of a captaincy, I would say. But the critics, especially in the media, if you're scoring double hundreds or 150 plus in 3 consecutive test matches, like, who's going to tell you you're a bad captain? No one, right? Because you're doing it, so it's good.
And also, let's be honest, if Joe didn't score runs this test match, India probably would have won it. I'm not sure, maybe, because the difference in England won by 200 runs, and that's the amount of runs Joe Root has scored, and it was the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, no, well put. Crypto says 2-2. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And you can tell he's got, by the Pakistan flag, he's a massive Pakistan fan. He says, do a live stream with Ashraf from Cricket for Us. We will be, the T20 start, I think, next week or sometime. So looking forward to that. And I'm sure I will be doing one with Ashraf as well. We're on our channels. He's on my channel and I'm on his quite a lot. So I'm sure you'll see my face there or his face here. Going back then to the match, I think Leach bowled really well, didn't he? I thought it was really, really impressive. And for me, it was good to see him, I think, put a lot of runs on the ball. We got a lot of drift from around the wicket into the right-hander, and then he managed to get it to grip and turn away. And I thought he was mighty impressive, I think, throughout the day. And I'll just put up a nice little picture of him celebrating because he'll be really happy with that. And I think on the whole, I think he pretty much cemented his place probably for the next test, I'd say, considering how important that spell was. Cash, rightly so, said about Anderson. I mean, he bowled a few beauties, and we'll come on to that in a bit, because that spell, I think, was equally, if not more so, as important as that Leach one. Because even though Leach took one more wicket, the importance of the wickets from Anderson and the pressure I think he created in that short burst was fantastic. But yeah, Leach, I thought, did really well. We'll come on to Bess. He didn't have the best bowling performance in this innings, yeah, which we'll talk about. But I think everyone knows that I'm not completely sold on him. But Kashia, what do you think of Leach's performance?
Yeah, I think it's he's obviously a confidence player to some degree, because we've seen him kind of battle against Pant, and then he's come this second innings. He's been a lot more consistent. Obviously, the pitch was doing a lot more. So that has to be taken into account. But even in Sri Lanka, we saw that he was battling really to get his lengths and his lines correct. So look, he's doing enough. He's getting wickets. He's doing enough to stay in the team. Let's see, he continues. These are some of the best conditions he's going to bowl in Test match cricket, I imagine.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's interesting because they always talk about you know, India and the subcontinent being a spinner's haven or spinner's paradise. And I think you still need, it's still a skill, a type of skill involved to be able to bowl in these conditions, because most of these batsmen have faced, you know, hundreds and hundreds of spinners on these tracks, but you need to be very skillful in the way you bowl. And yes, the conditions do assist you. It turns more, but that doesn't mean that you can just get away with bowling mediocre. And I think that came across with how Best bowled today, Venu. I mean, he bowled. I was saying to you guys, I think I saw him bowl 3 full tosses in a row. He does come across as someone who's a bit of a confidence player as well. What do you think, Venu? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to stick with him anyway for the next Test match. If I'm honest with you, I think they will, because he got some wickets in the first one, despite how jammy some of them may have been. I think, you know, as Venu rightly pointed out to me yesterday, you know, wickets are still wickets, and they'll look at that. What do you think, Venu? What's your overall opinion, I guess, of how Best bowled, and do you think they're going to stick with those two come the next Test match?
I think they probably will stick with Best. I would rather have Moeen Ali come in for Best. I think he'll provide with the bat as well, but I'm not sure if that will happen. But you're right. I think he is a confidence player. But who isn't a confidence player nowadays? Who isn't? Like
that's true, actually. You know, you make a really good point. I'm trying to think, actually, because I think I guess the only players that are not confidence players are probably going to be your elite, like, you know, your Smiths, your Kohlis, because I feel like in a way,
look at him.
Yeah.
As soon as he got past that 150 in that first Test in Sri Lanka, you knew this guy's going to be on a run here. Same with these big guys. I think it's just the buzzword that's used, confidence players.
But do you think that, like, I guess, so someone like Root, he didn't have a fantastic year last year. He still averaged 48.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a case of they're confidence players, but when they're not confident, they still perform as well as the other players. Maybe that's what it is.
I think coming back to Best, I think. Yeah, I would prefer Leach. I think Leach is the frontline spinner and Best is the second. But you know, he did bowl some good deliveries, and I think there was one good wicket I forgot in the first innings that he got. It was really good. But
Kohli, I think you guys thought Kohli, he set him up, didn't you? I think both of you.
Yeah, so it's very hot and cold, but I think England will stick with
him. Okay, yeah. I mean, he was a bit expensive. I'll just put up the scorecard. So he went for 6.25 and over. He only bowled 8 because I think he just started getting slapped everywhere, really. And that's why they took him off. But I mean, you look at that. I mean, Anderson, there 3 wickets from only 11 overs, economy 1.55, and he got Gill, who was set on 50, Rahane, who's a vital wicket, cleaned him up, and then he obviously got Rishabh Pant, who's very dangerous. Cash, I mean, how good was that spell? I mean, he was just bowling. He was bowling some peaches, and I think I said to Venu yesterday that he got his speed up to 140 Ks, which I haven't seen from Jimmy Anderson in a very long time. And I think he realizes that in these conditions, he probably needs to put a little bit more into his bowling, and they probably didn't bowl him as much, shorter spells. And if he wants the ball to reverse like he did today, he'll have to probably ramp up a little bit. So what were your thoughts on his spell?
I think like that specific over, you know, was the game changer to some degree, because at that moment, you know, you had you had Gill in and Kohli. So Gill was going very nicely, and Kohli was just starting to, you know, get into his groove, and that could have been the partnership for India, particularly the way that we saw Kohli then go on and play. Imagine he had Gill on the other end doing all the shots, and then Kohli just padding, you know, just batting away. They could have been there for a long time. So the fact that he managed to get out Gill, and then you know, I feel quite sorry for Rahane, because he's done terribly. Like on paper, he's done terribly this game, but he got amazing catch by Root, which, you know, you wouldn't expect, and then he got an absolute peach of a ball. So
yeah, this is a peach, wasn't it? I mean, thing is, I think the ball before they appealed for LBW, didn't they? And it wasn't given. And the next ball, I mean, Anderson, this is it's just beautiful. And I think, do I have it here? I think it's this one, yeah, where he basically just gets bowled through the gate. And I'm just like, it's one of those ones where he, as a batsman, I mean, I know he bowled a few of those, like those in-swingers, but this one swung a bit late. It was just in the perfect spot. And Rahane came forward and the ball reversed, and he was just just went through bat and pad, and it was just one of those deliveries that you watch. And as someone who's a batsman, even I just look at that and think, wow, like you want to see that, you want to see the stumps coming out the ground like that, and someone swinging the ball like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah. On the pace thing, him ramping up the pace. Strauss was talking about it actually in terms of a lot of the English cricketers have got a lot fitter. They look a lot stronger. Even Root, the Root looks a lot better in the field. Anderson looks really good. Few of them have really worked on their fitness whether it's over lockdown or just during the Sri Lanka period. They're looking up for it in the field.
Yeah, I agree. I think I talked to when I talked to Sean Dixon, actually, he was saying that even the county players, they do at the moment in the off season, they do like 60-40. So like 60 is S&C, so strength and conditioning, and then the 40% is the skill work. But I think there's a lot more emphasis on being fit, and we saw that with Dom Sibley, for example. He lost, I think, was it 15 kilograms or something like insane, right? And I think obviously some people, when we've discussed this, some people's optimum weight is a bit heavier, but I think for him, obviously, he didn't think it was, and he seems to have been proven right in his assessment. Similarly, Root, I think he had those persistent back problems, but he seems to have got over those. And as Kashi rightly pointed out, I think they look a bit more sturdy, I think is the right way of putting it. They just look. And Anderson is a good example, actually, because I thought he fielded really well. And that sets the tone. And I talked about that in the Pakistan South Africa one, but the fielding by England was really good. They put pressure on India, and there were a few really good drives from some of the Indian batsmen, and they stopped it, or kind of dived at extra cover and stopped the boundary and stopped even a single. So that was really impressive. How impressed were you by Anderson?
I've watched a lot of Anderson over the years, and it's probably one of the best overs that Anderson bowled, in my opinion, especially in the away test. I think before people would have question mark Anderson, is he a home track bully? Did he just get his wickets in England in swing conditions? Whereas today he just proved this guy's got it. This guy is like the talisman. He's 38 and he's the fittest he's ever been. As Kashif rightly said, he does look a lot fitter. He looks leaner. He looks a lot fitter, and the way he set those, just set them up. And it's reminiscent. I did some reading, the great Freddie Flintoff over in 2005 in the Edgbaston test, reminiscent of that, where he got an opener out, he got Langer out, and he got Ponting out as well. And this over turned the match for England, because having Gill batting at quite a fast rate, and also Rahane can also bat as well. So that really turned the match, and it's scary because the thing is, they think they might rest him for the next test match and bring him Broad. And I think we'll talk about this later on in this video. I think England test cricket is at a good position right now, considering you've got all these players on the sidelines waiting to come and play.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it'd be interesting actually, whether they actually go with Broad or whether they stick with Anderson now, because Anderson bowled so well. I think Broad will definitely get a look in. I wonder whether we will see them bowl together. I kind of doubt it, because Chennai, the second test match is in Chennai, right? Again. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a spinner's haven again. So interesting to see how they go with that. But I think Anderson will probably be chomping at the bit, wanting to bowl because he's bowled so well. But Broad will be wanting to come in. They're not going to, they're not going to arrest Archer, because I don't think they want Broad and Anderson to bowl long spells. So that would be interesting to see. In terms of from an Indian perspective, Cash, I mean, what went wrong for them?
I think you sort of have to look at the first innings, don't you? Okay, like England got the big score, and I think there's two inexperienced spinners, Sundar and Shabazz Nadeem, who both got punished. Really, they got punished badly. They got targeted by Root in particular, and it really, even if you've got world-class spinner at the other end, Ashwin, you all pressure is off, because one side is going for runs and Ashwin cannot develop the pressure that he needs, right? So I think they're going to have to look at that next. I wonder if Akshar will be fit, or if they'll bring in Kuldeep This will be kind of interesting. Someone with a little bit more experience, who can maybe be a bit more consistent. And then the batting, India didn't quite do enough first innings. And look, on another day, I was thinking about this. That Pujara shot, the one that he got out with, which hits the guy, it'll fall somewhere else, and he'll be in, and he'll end up getting 150, and it will look, they'll be much closer on another day. So there's a few small things like that, but then and then at the same time you have Root getting Rahane on another day. That doesn't happen. Rahane gets 40. Everything looks very different. So there's those intensity things which England had in the field, and maybe India didn't have in the field in the first innings. And then second innings was kind of set up. It was already kind of, you couldn't really do too much.
So what I'm hearing is that the reason why England won is because of Best, basically, not because of that lucky dismissal of Pujara. No. I think, yeah, and I agree with you. I think the thing is, there's a slight element of luck. I think it's unfair to say there was a lot, but I think there was a slice of luck. I think in England's win to a degree, and with Best, and I think you have to say it how it is. And who knows, Pujara, as you said, could have got the 150 potentially, but how dominant were England otherwise? I think they were just so dominant. And I thought it was really harsh of Kohli to say that, the bowler should have done better. And he didn't look towards the batsman. And that's a very batsman thing to say. And you wouldn't expect your captain to be saying that, to be honest with you. So I thought that was really, really disappointing from him. I didn't hear the whole post-match conference or speech, but I know that he said that. And I think, as you said, Cash, they didn't do well enough in the first innings, because the fact that England got 5, 7, 8, India at home, and they know they've scored 700 here before. So to get bowled out for 337 is probably, it's well below the par score needed in the first innings. And then, today I think it's a difficult one because they're having to chase a record score. So it's going to go one of two ways. They're either going to do the impossible, which it's not impossible, but they would have done an incredible job and got it, or they kind of petered out how they did here, I guess. And so I think by that point, the match was very difficult, and they probably had about a 5% chance of winning it, I think, probably anyway. So that first innings was crucial. And Kohli can go on about the bowlers and how, the backup spinners, as you said, in Washington Sundar and Nadeem didn't bowl well enough. And I agree, they didn't. But they're inexperienced. And so they took that gamble when they picked them. But the batsmen are not inexperienced. So I think people like Rohit Sharma didn't get any runs. Rahane, yeah, I think he was slightly unlucky, as you said, Cash, but Pant as well. He got runs in the first innings, in the second inning, get any. And even Kohli, yeah, he got 72 today, but realistically, they needed a lot of runs from him in the first one, and Gill got 50, got a good ball as well, to be fair, from Anderson. But I just think they needed someone to go big in both innings, and no one did. No one stepped up and said, I'm set. I'm on 50 plus. I'm going to go get 100. I'm going to go get 150. I'm going to go get 200. Someone like a Root who did it for England. And they needed one player to do it so they could play around them. And if they had, then we'll be talking about it very differently. But I think, for me, I just don't agree with it. What do you think, Venu, about that statement from Kohli?
Yeah, it does surprise me that Kohli would say that. I think if Ashwin had more runs to defend, I think it would have been a different story. And it's quite interesting that this test was the first time in 20 instances that Ashwin has picked 5 wickets in the match, and India end up losing the test. So in the previous 21 instances, India won as many as 20, whilst one ended with a draw. So it's the first time in 20 instances where Ashwin's taken 5 wickets in an innings or in the match. I'm not sure, but that does tell you a lot that that India didn't really have the runs for Ashwin, and the bowlers to work with. And I do think India, for them to get a big score, a lot relies on Pujara. I think, he's the batter who would stay at one end, ensures he doesn't get out, will bat 2 or 3 sessions. You've got Gill who can hit get a decent strike rate. Kohli obviously, and Pant coming in go at a decent strike rate as well. So don't underestimate how good Pujara's innings was against Australia in that last Test match.
Do you think it's a case of then actually it's not even necessarily the runs that he scores, but it's, as you're saying, it's maybe to do with the fact that he holds down one end and it gives, he soaks up the pressure, doesn't he? And he frustrates the bowlers, and then actually the batsman at the other end can cash in almost. But if he doesn't stay in, if he faces 200 balls and only scores 30, for example, I mean that's really important because going forward, like the batsman then, as you said, can do it. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just thinking, that plan works well for India, but what's their plan B? What happens if Pujara gets out cheaply? Like, I see Kashif's nodding there. Do you? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm trying to think. Like, we keep on seeing Pujara making really good partnerships with people like Pant and Sundar and Gill. He's not making really good partnerships with Kohli and Rahane. It's kind of interesting. I don't know what you guys think about that. Is that just random, or is it actually that they don't know how to build partnerships together on the top order?
I think it's two things. Personally, I think Pujara, as Venu's rightly pointed out, it's a lot easier when you have two batsmen that are contrasting in a way, because they dovetail quite nicely. And if you've got two players that are quite similar, sometimes what happens is, like for example, Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill are both pretty attacking, right? And so you can go one of two ways. Either they can be 100 for naught, or what seems to be in the case in that first innings, for example, that they fell quite quickly, and then it puts pressure on the middle order. They're both very talented players, but normally, for example, an opening pair, you look to have someone potentially who is either going to be an anchor and then someone who might be a bit more aggressive, especially in the white ball game. And then in Test cricket, I think with Pujara, he is someone who he soaks it all up. So as a batsman at the other end, you're looking at it thinking, great, he's getting hit, he's getting all the short stuff. So when it comes to me, I'm gonna face the bowler, especially someone like Pant, for example, because you've got the right hand, left hand. So that's even better, because then if you've got right hand, left hand combination, then that's fantastic. Especially if you're batting with Pujara, it's like doubly incredible, because as a batsman, you're thinking, okay, he's facing all of that. Then next thing you know, they've bowled a Pujara for 10 deliveries, and he runs a single, and you're like, great. And the bowler comes on and has to adjust his line and length anyway, and he also has to adjust to you, because they're not going to bowl the same way to you, right? Because most batsmen, if they get a delivery that Pujara gets that's a bit shorter, they won't get hit. They'll try and go after it, and in the subcontinent pitches, like it will sit up, so then they have to adjust. So I think that's probably why as well. I think the game plan people have for Pujara is very different, and the way he bats is very unique. So what it means is that as the batsman on the other end, it works to your favor, because they have to constantly adjust the game plan each time they're facing you. So I think that's personally what I think.
Do we think? And I've heard this mentioned before. Should Pujara maybe be opening the batting, and you put Sharma at 3?
That's really interesting. What do you think, Venu? Well, that's an interesting question.
Why not? Like, I think the issue with the Indian openers is that they both like to go at a decent run rate, right? Decent strike rate. And I think England have shown their openers, especially Sibley, this Test match is, really eat up the overs, eat up the balls, and therefore your middle order come in they come with an older ball and can, and especially Joe Root can come in with a, maybe a 20 over, 30 over old ball and really capitalize. And I just think this Test match, the openers didn't really, perform, and as a result, Pujara and Kohli come in maybe with ball maybe 10 overs old and quite relatively new to the innings. And I think what Kashif said about Pujara opening, yeah, why not have him at number 1 and have Rohit at number 3? I think that'll be quite a decent move.
That's really interesting, actually. I'll just say he's actually had 6 innings opening the batting. His strike rate is 62. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think the majority of so he's got 6 innings at opening, 122 at 3, 5 innings at 4, and 1 at 5. So obviously, pretty much the majority of the time he's always batted at 3. But is it a case of, do you think, because I get your points actually, both of you, but do you think, is it a case of if it's not broke, don't fix it? Because I mean, he's probably one of the only players in that lineup that you can say he's a safe bet to probably get you some runs, and he's probably the most solid one. So I'd assume they're not going to want to tinker with that. And maybe it's a case of actually Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill, well, probably more so Rohit going into the second test, will need to adjust his game slightly, maybe, because I think, I think it's the way he plays test match cricket for me is a very high risk. And because he's so talented, I think he can get away with it at times, and that he'll score huge scores. And I get that completely. But there are a lot of Indian fans that actually thought maybe Mayank Agarwal should have been playing instead of him anyway, because he's been a more kind of consistent performer. Whereas Rohit will score a big score and then he'll go on a run like this. So I think Rohit Sharma needs to potentially adjust, not be more conservative, but maybe be more calculated in his aggression potentially, in the way that he plays. Because I think he's a fantastic player, very talented. I think we can all agree on that. But he probably needs to rein it in a little bit and realize that, okay, I'm a very good player, I'm talented, but maybe pick and choose more rather than being more aggressive. What do you think, Ash?
I think it kind of goes back to maybe the conversation we were having on the group chat earlier about Rohit being not necessarily a central part of the test team. And so Pujara is your second name on the list after Kohli. One of the top, run scorer in the test game. And look, Rohit has to show his worth to be prioritized, right? When you build a team, you have to make the balance between the players and what's going on with the team. So obviously we've seen a few games and we've thought, okay, maybe it will be interesting to swap the order. But in the long-term situation, obviously Pujara's been at 3 the whole time. So for 50, 60 games. So
yeah, 100%. I agree. This is a really interesting question. Will KL Rahul get a chance? I mean, obviously seen as a fantastic white ball player. I mean, I would say he's pretty much nailed on in the T20 format, that's for sure. And in ODIs, I think he's doing pretty well. But I mean, he's probably not going to get a chance opening, I'd imagine. But maybe the middle order. What do you think, Venu?
If India lose the next test match, then maybe I can see him coming in the third or fourth test match. But at the moment, I think they're going to stick with the same batting lineup going forward.
Yeah, I think they probably will. What do you think, though, Cash? As a prospect in Test cricket, how do you think KL Rahul compares to the others?
I think he might have come in the Australia series, but he was injured for a bit.
Yeah, he's in the squad, but I don't think he was picked. I don't think he didn't play. He didn't play a Test match anyway.
Yeah, but I think he might have strained something, because there was a moment when Agarwal came in and he didn't do very well, and everyone was talking, "Oh, Rahul will come in," and then wasn't possible. So I think it's more just when will he get his chance, and who would he replace in this team?
So I guess at the time, I think Gill came in, didn't he, instead of KL Rahul? But I think they were looking. But I'm assuming he would more slot into the middle order, wouldn't he? And then it's a question of, as you said, who does he come in? I think at the time they had Vihari, and Vihari obviously didn't play this match. So I think people were saying, should he maybe potentially come in for him as well? Because Vihari looks very talented, but hasn't maybe got the runs. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think he can? Do you think he would do well in Test cricket?
I think so. I mean, I haven't looked. I think he's played a few games now. I haven't checked his record, but I think if Rohit's not getting runs in maybe the next game, or next 2 games, then why not give him a shot?
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially as Venu said, if they potentially lose the next match, then I think they'll have to look to change it somewhere, for sure.
KL Rahul's first class average for batting is 46.
Not bad, is it? not bad at all.
1400s, 29 50s, average of 46. So that's not bad.
Yeah, and he's played 36. I'm just having a look here. 36 Test matches, average of 35, 511 50s, and top score of 199. So, I mean, his average in ODIs and T20s is really good, 45 and 46 respectively. Obviously, his test average is a bit lower, so needs to get that up. I'm assuming, but yeah, I think interesting. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. He says but his test average hasn't been the greatest. It hasn't been. And hello. Yeah, I think it's a weird one, isn't it? Though, because he seems like a very talented player. So I feel like the depth of this Indian side is so big at the moment that he'd probably be able to get into. He probably would have had more chances in a different team at the moment. But you know what I want to talk about, and it's going to be so controversial, is Kohli's captaincy. So I think he's lost his last 4 games as captain.
Correct.
I think it is. And obviously Rahane captained very well in Australia. I'm going to go to you first, Venu, because I think I have an idea of what Cash is gonna say. But for you, Venu, what do you think? Do you think a lot of Indians actually are saying, I've seen in forums saying that actually, if Kohli had been captain for the rest of that Australia series, then they would have lost it. And they're actually attributing most of that because they lost the first one, didn't they? Really badly. They're actually attributing most of the credit to Rahane and saying that potentially he should be captain. What's your take on it, Venu?
It's interesting. Yeah, you said 4 in a row under Kohli now. So they lost 2 in New Zealand, the Adelaide Test when they got bowled out for 30 odd, and now
36. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Sorry, go on, Venu.
This one here. So it's interesting. I think a discussion needs to be had. But let's not jump on Virat Kohli here. All right. Before that, this losing streak of 4 games. Before that, he led India to 7 consecutive wins, which was the most among Indian captains. Now, my question is, how good is Virat Kohli getting his team back after a series of losses? How good is he? I think Rahane is probably better at maybe getting the best out of the players, when they're down, when they're on the back foot.
Yeah, he showed that, didn't he, in Australia?
He did show that, yes. However, they're gonna stick with Virat Kohli. I think if they lose a series, then maybe there'll be some question marks. But
but say you're the Indian selector. Say you're the Indian selector, because I think you're right. I know, but say you were, because I think you're right. They're definitely going to stick with him. But in your opinion, like, what's your view on it? As in, if you could choose as a neutral from the outside, looking from the outside in, if you were looking at it, and obviously Kohli has done very well with India in the past, but do you think maybe being captain in all 3 formats might be taking a toll on him as well? What's your view? Do you think Rahane should be captain? What's your actual opinion on it, though?
I'm not too sure on this one. I think they need to look into it, but I'm sure Rahane would do a good job. But how old is Rahane? I think he's older than Kohli, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's slightly older. I think he's 33. I could be wrong, but I think he's 33. I'll check. But yeah, I think he.
So giving Rahane the captaincy is not going to be long term for India. So would he give it to someone a lot younger than Virat Kohli? I don't see any candidates there at the moment. And is it affecting his batting? Well, he just...
They're the same age. Sorry, they're the same age.
They're the same age.
32. Yeah.
Now, I think Cash is probably a better position to answer it myself, but I'm not too sure on this one.
I feel like you're still on the fence here to make sure you don't get blasted for saying not Kohli. No, I'm joking. No, I know. I'm just joking.
I'm not experienced enough to answer that question.
But so you don't have a very strong view on it, basically, is what you're saying.
I think that people. Let's see how the series goes. That's what I'm saying.
Fine. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, fair enough. So
talk about it. You can't you can't just say because Virat Kohli, he's captain. You can't just do that. I think they need to have discussion, about this. And I'll be really interested to see how Virat Kohli is. This is going to be interesting here because Rahane took over when they were 1-0 down and won the series. Now Virat Kohli is exactly in the same position with a four test match series, 3 test matches to go. He's in the exact same position, and let's see if Virat Kohli does a similar feat to Rahane did in Australia.
That's really interesting. And to be fair to Rahane, they had a very weakened side straight after that. They had a lot of injuries. Kohli's got a stronger side, and they're at home, so you'd expect him to do better. But we'll see. I think that's a good point, though, Venu. As in, I think after this series is going to be I mean, if they lose it anyway, they'll sit down. If they win it, I don't think they're going to even visit it.
Do you think, because he's the best player in the world, arguably one of the best players in the world, do you think he gets overly criticised?
No, I don't. I think he gets rightly criticised because he's up one of the Fab Four. Because if you look at it, is the reason why I think this, and again, I think a lot of people can correct me if I'm wrong, but because he's so outward, unlike someone like Kane Williamson, who's very, you know, he's a very good captain, but he's not so aggressive and in your face. I think if you're going to be in your face like that, then you have to deal with the media. And I don't think he actually cares about the media, and that's fair enough. And I think he's very gung ho, and that's just the way he is. And then I think he knows that he's going to get more scrutiny. I think in India he probably gets criticized too much, but outside of India, I don't think he does. I think we're pretty fair with him, if I'm being honest with you. But in India, they always will. I mean, Tendulkar used to get scrutinized all the time. It's just how cricket is just huge there. It really is, and that's why I think personally. Let's say Cricket Frost 2.0 says they're sticking with Kohli for the next 2 years at least. Yeah, he says India's not Pakistan. He goes here. This is interesting. After 2019 World Cup, West Indies Test, KL Rahul was dropped from Test, but he's changed his technique. His head used to fall over to off stump. He's worked on a technique. His head is very still now. Yeah, I mean that's crucial, and thank you. This is actually one of the first technical comments we've had, I think, on the channel. So thank you. So yeah, 100%. And Venu, we talk about this all the time. It doesn't really matter what your technique is, as long as your head's still. If your head's still, you can bat however you want, front foot, back foot. Normally, you'll be fine, and you're in line. So that's interesting that his head used to fall. And yeah, if your head's falling over off stump, then you lose your balance, and it brings in the LBW, nicking off and getting bowled, really, and getting bowled through the gate. So he's saying here maybe he deserves one more chance. And I think Cricket Frost 2.0 agrees. But Cash, going back onto the Kohli situation, do you think what's your view on it? Because I didn't get your view upon whether you think he should be captain in Tests. I mean, I personally think, like, as a Pakistani fan, having Babar Azam as all three format captain, there's quite a lot of pressure probably on him. And if you see England, they've got Root in the Test format, and then he doesn't even play T20s now. And Morgan is obviously the white ball captain. Do you think maybe the subcontinent nations have got it a bit wrong?
I think you want all three. You want a captain for all three at certain moments. Maybe when you're developing a particular group of players. And I feel like India have been doing that for the last number of years. They have this very strong pool of players who have all come together. And I feel like Virat's been really the engine behind it. And I feel like he's not going to go unless or until Ravi Shastri goes. That's one way of looking at it.
So do they have a really strong bond? Do they, Ravi Shastri?
That's my feeling about it. I mean, there have been talk about maybe Rohit getting the captaincy for T20 and ODI for the short format. That I think would be more possible than Kohli dropping for the Tests. That's my opinion.
That's interesting.
I think I don't know. Kohli, to me, Kohli's we know he's got this big ego, he's Mr. Arrogant, all of this kind of thing. And to what degree it's a show and to what degree it's not doesn't really matter. What was interesting in this Test match, we didn't see too much of that. He didn't. I was wondering if he was maybe trying to be a bit more like Rahane and chill out a bit.
Do you think it's because of what Sai's saying here when he says Kohli, when will Kohli get his 100? Do you think it's partly because he realizes he's not in the best of form and he hasn't scored 100 since the start of 2019 in any format? Do you think that's playing on his mind a little bit?
Maybe. I mean, look, the way he played in this last innings was beautiful. If he played like that in the first innings on a relatively flat pitch, he's getting big runs. It's in the second innings, a 72 on the last day, with the ball moving around with the uneven bounce. It was a pretty good, it was a real masterclass in how you play, particularly against spin with the soft hands, playing late a lot. Very different style to Root, obviously.
Yeah, 100%.
But very effective. I wouldn't. Maybe it's maybe that's a confidence thing, whatever. But that shouldn't affect him as the greatest, player on the planet, possibly. That shouldn't affect him so much.
That's a big claim, Cash. We're going to do a video on that, I think. We're going to do a video on that, I think. Yeah, 100%.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And particularly when you think about him as developing the team, you have to say that he has a big impact as a character.
100%. Venu, you wanted to say something. What were you going to say?
Be interesting. I think if it does come to the position where, let's say, India loses series, will the BCCI have the guts to replace him? I'll be interested if that happens. I don't think they will.
Do you think he's bigger than the team now?
Arguably, yes.
They talk about Messi is bigger than Barcelona, or sometimes you have that.
Yeah, I think the Indians have to be careful that doesn't happen, because it's not an individual game. Cricket it's a team game. And let's add to that, right? So over the last 4 or 5 years, he hasn't won an ICC title, no T20 tournament, didn't win the World Cup. In his IPL record as a captain, he hasn't won anything in last 8 years. So I don't know. I think a lot depends on the series. India have to get a result here. Builds.
I think. Obviously, I don't follow the IPL that closely, but I know about what's going on with it. I know, was it Mumbai Indians have won it the last 2 years? Rohit Sharma's the captain, isn't he? So that's, I think, why there's been a bit of talk about him becoming the T20 captain. And I feel like Kohli would be a better captain. I don't think he should be dropped from all formats as captain. I think he should at least stay as one. But I feel like maybe there's a lot of pressure on him being the superstar for India, being this, he is a global star, and it's the same as someone like a Steve Smith, I think, and who's so well known. Kane Williamson is very well known now as well, and Joe Root's get pretty much there now. He's getting there. He's not as like superstar-esque as someone like Kohli, because he loves that. I think he has that type of persona as well. But I feel like he's got so many other things going on, and then to also be captain in all 3 formats, it's a lot of pressure on one person. So I think he's got the weight of one country on his shoulders, and I kind of think like that with Babar Azam for Pakistan. But Kash, you made a good point that sometimes you need a captain when the team's in a transitional phase, and Pakistan really are in that phase, and maybe it'll work for us hopefully going forward. And Sai says here, will Kuldeep Yadav get a chance next match? If so, who will he replace? Venu, do you want to go first? What do you think?
Probably Nadeem. Probably coming for Nadeem. That's
Yeah.
what I'll say.
Yeah, I think I agree. What do you think, Cash?
Yeah, for sure. It seems maybe a bit too early for Nadeem. I think they were too caught up on having the left arm orthodox spinner. They really thought that was really important. And obviously, at the end of the day, you want someone consistent, and you want someone, and even though Kuldeep is more of a left arm leg spinner, I still think he has some experience and he should get a chance. But I would be one. I wonder if Akshar Patel will be. I don't know if he's going to be fit or not.
I think it's like a race. I'm not sure whether he will. I think it's 50-50 from what I know. But yeah, I mean, surely if he's fit, they'll pick him, won't they?
Yeah, I would imagine so. But I think Kuldeep's got a little bit more experience. So
yeah, he does. Well, I think you're right about they obviously wanted to have spin away from the right hand and spin into the right hand, and then you have that with Nadeem and Ashwin. But you make a very good point that it doesn't really matter if someone isn't consistent, doesn't perform well. Like, you can have on paper it looks great, but obviously he got hit and it didn't work. And Kuldeep Yadav is the left arm unorthodox, or left arm leg spin, however you want to call it, and he's going to turn the ball the same as Ashwin into the right hander and away from the left hander, but it might work. I mean, Pakistan is a good example, and the reason I'm using it is because we had the same thing. We had Yasir Shah and we had Naman Ali, and they both turned the ball away from the right hander. And at first, actually, I thought maybe we should have gone with an off spinner and Yasir Shah because you have spin both ways, and it's a different challenge for the batsman. But both of them were quite consistent, and I think maybe that's what India will look to in the next test. That they'll look, well, actually, okay, yeah, ideally we'd want that, but we want to have the two best spinners on, the two best spinners that we can pick really. And I think Kuldeep Yadav is probably nudging in front of Nadeem, and Nadeem's very inexperienced as well. And then obviously they've got Washington Sundar, who's inexperienced. Both of them have only played 2 test matches. So I think that's interesting. Washington Sundar, actually, he got some runs, but he didn't bowl very well. Do you think he's going to keep his place in the side?
I think his batting was good. I think he'll stay in for his batting. That's my opinion. Like, he got an 85 not out. If there was someone on the other end, he was getting 100 probably. So, and he would have been the only one in the India team to do so. So I think he's shown his chops in the batting. It's only a question of balance of team. If he'll lose out, because I don't think he's quite good enough to be an out and out batsman yet. We've only seen a couple of games of him, so it would only be about balance. But I think if they still want the spin options, I think he's going to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I think that knock definitely has probably cemented him for the next one. Let's talk about England then. Stokes, I thought, was quite impressive in the first innings. He got dropped on 30, got 80 in the end. He was actually my pick to get the most runs as a very left field option. I think Root and Kohli obviously the safe bets, and it looks like Root might potentially. I mean, he's so far ahead already. But actually, rather than Stokes, I guess there are a lot of question marks around the openers and the top 3. But Sibley got runs, which is really important, I thought, in the first innings. And then Burns, he got 30 odd, I thought. So that was good. What do you think they're going to do at 3? Because if Crawley's not fit, do you think they're going to stick with Dan Lawrence? What do you think, Venu?
I think they'll stick with him. I don't think they'll go for the option of putting Moeen Ali in that 3. I don't think that would happen. I think they would have more or less the same team, but broadly potentially.
Do you think it's just because it's a winning team, so they just won't want to change it?
And give Lawrence as much exposure as possible because he seems to be a promising young talent. That's what I think would happen.
What would you want to do, Vanu, after this? As in, if you were the selector and you looked at the team, and Lawrence obviously is a very talented player. Hasn't performed though in this test match, and it's a lot of pressure on him at 3. Would you go with Moeen Ali at 3? Like, what would you do personally?
Personally, I would love to see Moeen Ali play, so I'll put Moeen Ali at 3. And
Okay.
it gives it an option, and potentially you don't have to play best in the team, so you could have a Wokes come in, or to come in instead of Tom Best, another option, and he can bat a bit as well, Wokes. And I'm looking forward to hopefully next test match when that happens. You got Folkes in for Butler, so you got Stokes, Folkes, and Wokes.
You love that, don't you? That rhyming. What about you, Cash? What do you think?
I'm thinking. I know beforehand they would have said Broad, Anderson, rotation. I'm wondering if, because Anderson bowled so well in that last thing, they're just their brain's starting to move a bit, and they're thinking, oh, maybe we'll put Anderson in. We'll see how that pans out. But what will be interesting is actually the third test, because it's going to be pink ball. And people are talking about but having them both, Broad and Anderson, because of the swing options and Archer.
That's a really good point. And actually, so I was saying here, the pink ball test. I agree with you, Cash. I think if they're going to play both of them, it'll probably be in the pink ball test.
Yeah.
But as you said, they've got a tricky decision because Anderson's bowled so well. So do they go with both? But I think they will probably going to originally play them in the pink ball test, and that probably makes the most sense because for the seamers you get the most, don't you? And Venu, you're saying about Wokes, maybe they'll look to go a bit more seam heavy for that one. So I was saying Gambia said give Bumrah a rest in the second match because of his workload, and then bring him in fresh for the pink ball test, where I guess he'll have more of an impact with the ball. Venu, what do you think about that?
I guess they could need to put Siraj in for Bumrah. I think Siraj performed really well in Australia. So, that is an option. And I think a lot has been said about rotating and resting players, and I think Bumrah, because especially because of his action and the way he bowls, I think he does exert a lot of force on him, a lot of energy as well. So he might need a rest. But yeah, why not bring in Siraj for him? But let's be honest, I think India need to think about their batting. It's more important than the bowling department at the moment.
Potentially. Yeah, I agree with you. His action is very, I think probably both actually for me. I think maybe disciplines. But yeah, I think Bumrah, his action puts a lot of strain on his body, which is why he's got a lot of injuries in the past. But obviously, he's very effective. It's very unique and it works for him. But maybe his workload, maybe they do need to manage him quite well. And in India, there's an expectation on the seamers to have to bowl a few more overs. So maybe they rest him. What do you think, Cash?
Yeah, I think it'll be up to fitness and management to work out what they think's best with him. And the freshness, obviously, had quite a big. Well, he was injured, wasn't he, for the last test in Australia? So he's obviously frail or brittle somewhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if they rested him. Bring in Siraj, that'd be interesting. Be interesting to see Siraj and Sharma kind of lead the attack. I think it'll be fine, and I think it'd be nice to bring Siraj in because I think he'll be hungry for after doing so well in the Gabba and then being dropped is a bit harsh, So
Yeah, they've just got that many seam bowlers, don't they, at the moment? I mean, I was saying to Venu that this is, and I said to you, Cash, before that India at the moment have got what 7, 8 fast bowlers that they could probably pick from, and they've never really had that where they've got 7 or 8 fast bowlers where they can choose, these types of bowlers. So I thought that was at the moment they're in a golden spot with their fast bowlers for sure. And so yeah, it's a bit harsh, but I guess Ishant Sharma is the workhorse, as Venu said yesterday for India, and he's got his 300th Test wicket as well. So he's doing a good job on Bumrah. I guess just walks in unless he's got fitness problems, so it's difficult. Venu, I want to give this one to you. Size question, because I want you to be you're very passionate on Moeen Ali, as am I, to be fair, but I'm probably a bit biased. And he says Moeen in for Bess because Bess was very inconsistent with his line and length. What do you think, Venu?
Yes.
Yes, short and to the point. I'll expand on Venu's answer. Yes, I think Bess was a bit too loose in the second innings for sure, and in my opinion, I know that you guys. I mean, say for example, he set up Kohli really well in that first innings, as you guys said. Even then, I think the other 3 were very lucky. So 1 wicket out of 4 being a proper legitimate wicket to me. And yes, I understand that bowlers can get a bit of luck, but there's like a certain amount of luck that you can get until it runs out. And I feel like maybe his is starting to run out, considering what's just happened today, where he got slapped everywhere. So going at 6 and over, and then not picking up a wicket. Well, he picked up 1, didn't he? I think. So which was yesterday. So I think for him, he's going to be looking at it and thinking, I probably need to improve. And I've said this before. It's a learning curve for him. I do think he's going to become a very good bowler. I just think at the moment it's a bit too early for him. I still think it's a bit too early for him. And until he has a performance where he gets even 3 wickets, 4 wickets, where he gets the ball to talk on this surface, and it looks like he's really got to grips with it. A performance like Leach put on today, if he puts on a performance like that, then I'll say, actually, you know what, he's ready. But he hasn't done that yet for me. And so until he does, I won't be sold on him. And especially in these conditions, spinners are so important. And I think, as Venu rightly pointed out, Moeen gives you more batting. And because he's a left-hander, you have left-hand, right-hand combination as well. It's useful. And he's just more experienced. So I would go with him. And I don't think he's going to go for as many runs as Best. Not many spinners will go for 6 and over. Personally, so that's kind of my take on it. What do you think, Cash?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think Moeen should come in. I think, to be fair to Bess, Leach is trying to get his handle and stuff as well. So it must be difficult for a part-time spinner, as Bess is, to then having to help your, not having a stable partner on the other side must be a little bit difficult for him, as much as anything. And obviously he's young. Once he gets his consistency, he might be a decent bowler. He seems to get these wickets. I'm not sure where they come from. Sometimes people just want to take him on. Good.
Do you know what it is? It's like when, like for me, and I know that you see a bowler bowling like pies, and the batsman just thinks in their head, I've got to smash this guy, like he's rubbish, and you almost get, you almost take advantage of how bad the person is, or you don't take advantage of it, and you get ahead of yourself and you start charging them or playing shots that you wouldn't normally play, and you're just really irresponsible. And that's kind of the mindset that I see batsmen have when they face best. That's kind of what it reminds me of. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean that like totally rings true with in the first innings of the Pant dismissal, because Pant had been playing really well. He'd been playing with the spin the whole time. He'd been smashing Leach, for sixes with the spin. Then for some reason against Best, he decided to go against the spin. And it must have just been he didn't care about his, he didn't think he was spinning it enough or whatever, and he just went for it. Come down the track a little bit, and he miscued it and it went up. It's just
it's carnage. I tell you what, as somebody who bowls a little bit of spin, I was like, if I could bowl like him, and when I say bowl like him, I mean obviously I can't bowl anywhere near as good as him, but like if we talk about comparatively speaking, I think you've got your A standard, which is like Ashwin, and then maybe you've got, I'd say best at the moment is maybe, I don't want to be too harsh, I'd say maybe he's like a C standard, right, on a scale of A to F. I think Ashwin's probably an A standard. He's the A standard, I'd say, and Best is maybe a C at the moment. I think if I could bowl C standard in the level of cricket I play at the moment and still get wickets, I would be like, oh, fantastic. I'd be like, great, this is fantastic. I could just keep on bowling. Like he bowls half trackers, he bowls pies, full tosses, and he'll get wickets. And I'm like, this is like watching a Sunday morning, like, friendly. That's what it reminds me of. And sometimes I think even he can't believe he's getting wickets. And I don't think, and I said this before, I don't think he's a bad player. I just think it's too early. So we'll see. Sai, thank you very much for the comment. Very good content, guys. So thank you, Venu and Cash. I hope you guys get more subscribers and get more famous. We're not very famous at the moment, so yeah, we have to get a lot more famous. All the very best. Thank you very much, Sai. Cash and Venu, is there anything you guys want to touch upon actually before we wrap up here?
It's going to be really interesting because I think England have had a history of losing the first Test match of a series, and they've always had to come back. And now the role is reversed. Now I'm just wondering, will England be ruthless enough to really, really punish India for the next Test match? Because India have had a really famous comeback against Australia. I'm just wondering, do England have that inner strength, like the great Australian team? Or great teams in the past, they will always, when they're slightly ahead, they will put the push advantage home. So I think the series is going to shape up to be a good one. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a fantastic series, and we had a very good series between India and Australia. I think the England Sri Lanka one was quite good because it was competitive for quite a few days, even though England ended up being dominant in the end. Similarly, the Pakistan South Africa one that's just happened. Again, even though we won 2-0, I don't think we dominated the whole series. It wasn't like that. It was that a lot of the days were very touch and go, and then we had a burst and we took it away from them. And obviously we had that amazing West Indies win against Bangladesh. So I think Test cricket's in a very good place, as Venu said before in when we did the weekly catch up, and I'm really happy about that. And I'm releasing an interview with wicketkeeper batsman Ollie Robinson from Kent. I did one with him yesterday, and he's only 22, and he said to me that I asked him actually, Venu, which you'll be pleased, and I asked him, I said, look, how are you perceiving Test cricket? Like, do you think Test cricket is potentially dying? And I said, obviously it's off to a very good start here, but I said before there were doubts as to whether it was as glamorous to county cricketers, and he's someone who plays consistently week in, week out for Kent, and he's young. He's younger than us, and I asked him, "What's your priorities?" And he said, "To be honest with you, my dream and the pinnacle of the sport is Test cricket. So I want to play Test cricket for England." And I said to him, "I'm really glad he said that, because if you hadn't, I was going to stop this interview." And as a joke, I said, "No, I would have gone along with whatever he said." I said as a joke, but he and that was really good to hear, because he said, "Yeah, I'm working on my shorter format in the off season, etc." Because he said, "I've got to a place where I'm a bit more confident in my red ball." But in ODIs and T20s, he said, "Obviously, I'm trying to work on it more." But he said, "Look, that is the pinnacle." He said, Test cricket is the skill involved in the longer format. He said it's a lot more rewarding to win a 4-day game for Kent than it is to win a one day or a T20, because the amount of effort put in over those 4 days and the amount of consistency needed and skill and cricket IQ needed, I think, over those 4 days, especially as a wicketkeeper batsman, because I think he said, I bat like 4 and then I have to keep. So he said the amount of mental concentration I need is a lot harder and it's a lot tougher for me, not just physically but mentally. And he said, so it's a lot more rewarding. So I'm glad that's the case, for sure. Cash, do you want to touch upon anything?
I'm looking forward to crowds actually in the next game. And I'm wondering what's, is it going to change the dynamic a little bit? Are India going to be a bit more intense in the field? Is it going to maybe put more pressure on India? Sometimes it can work against you if you're doing badly. So these are all kind of things which will be interesting with crowds coming in.
Yeah, 100%. Go on, Venu.
What you're going to say? Something? What are you going to say?
No, go on. I was going to talk about crowd.
No.
Say whatever you want to say.
One final thing I want to say. I'm so glad this test match was on Freeview TV, Channel 4, just like the old days when we were back in primary school. And I'm hoping some young kid, boy or girl, saw James Anderson get those 2 wickets in that over and thinking, I could do this. I could bowl like that. And
to be fair, go on.
Hopefully this inspires some kids. This is bound to inspire one kid to get to cricket this summer. And hopefully this series will be a great showcase. And hopefully in your club, Fizan, hopefully some new kids join the club at the coach level. And it's all good. It's a good show. And long live Test cricket.
Yeah, hopefully they do, but hopefully they don't take my place. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. But I was saying that, to be fair, Ollie Robson said he said the same thing. Yeah, they might do. Yeah, Ollie Robson said the same thing. He said he's really happy it's on Freeview, so I think a lot of people are saying that. I'm happy as well. I know I sometimes don't sound it, but I'm very happy it's on Freeview. I just think, and I think it's probably just because they got it last minute, Channel 4. They haven't had time to put together their own team and put together the bits and bobs. But for me, I think we've been a bit sport with Sky, as in the coverage, but for me personally, Venu, you might not care, but I care. It's my personal opinion is that I'd prefer it to be on Freeview, 100%. And I'm just hoping that for the second test, because they've got more time now, that they'll sort out a few other things, and I'm sure they will. Thing is, they haven't had it in a very long time. So I think it's probably difficult for them to commit to investing so much when they don't know if they're going to be able to do it for series after series. Because if they just have a one-off series, then why are they going to bother investing, which I understand. So hopefully we see it more on Freeview. Because the last time, as you said, Venu, was the Ashes in 2005, which is 16 years ago. So
that's how long I've done cash for.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
We were all getting nostalgia trips with Monty.
Do you remember? Yeah. I'll tell you that 2005 Ashes. I don't know about you. It got me into cricket, and I remember that as soon as we got into school in that September, everyone was talking about it. Everyone wanted to play, and we did. Remember Spinner's Paradise at school? We used to play there.
Spinner's Paradise.
Hopefully, it's not the same thing. But
I used to get my leg spin out.
Yeah, exactly. Good memory. Good time.
Venu trying to bat like Brian Lara. That was a classic.
No, he was better than Brian Lara. Do you remember?
Oh yes. Yeah,
Can I just say I have not been dismissed in Test match cricket.
Yes, you're 0 not out, Venu. Yeah, neither of me and Cash. That's fine.
I'm yet to be bowled, yet to be given out LBW. I'm yet to be caught. So that's how good of a batsman I am.
Yeah, I'm also unbeaten in boxing and tennis, and I've never lost a match in football either. Yeah, I think. Yeah, thanks very much.
Huh? You're stealing my joke.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, wrap this up. Sorry.
I will wrap this. It's okay. Yeah, crowds. I think just to very finally. So I think crowds will be a big deal. I think for the next Test match and third and fourth. So I think India probably play better with the crowd. I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure on them, and sometimes it can backfire. But I think in Test matches, it will help them. I think, and I'm sure that some of the England players may be intimidated. Some will love it. Some like Stokes will love it. He'll relish it. Others, I don't know how everyone reacts to it, but that'll be good to see. It's always good. I think when we saw the crowds in Australia, I was really happy for the India-Australia one. So I'm hoping that we get crowds for that, for this, and hopefully in Pakistan we can get crowds as well for the T20 coming up as well, T20 series. Okay, thanks very much, guys, for coming on as well, taking time out of your busy schedules. Venu, you can practice your tennis swing and maybe watch some Australian Open or not. And Cash, enjoy. I don't know if you're into tennis, but enjoy the rest of the day as well. He's like, yeah, maybe. I can maybe dabble in it.
Wimbledon.
Wimbledon, yeah. Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. And yeah, I'll see you, everyone watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And like and comment the vids and subscribe to the channel even. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank